AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They've got him. It's a sack.
Sixers.
Oh, baby.
And Flyers.
He scored.
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig.
It's good.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
And he scored.
Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Josh Hennig.
Tuesday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. I am Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Tuesday night. Sixers. I don't know what's worse, the loss or the news that came out almost 24 hours after the loss. Plus, important news for the Eagles. How could this new news impact what they do in the NFL draft? All that, and speaking of the NFL draft, Andy McNamara is back. We'll get into our thoughts on the NFL draft. Of course, this Thursday night, it all starts. You hear all the draft coverage right here on 97.3 ESPN. Thursday night, Friday night, both nights at 7 p.m. The first round is Thursday night. Friday night, it is second and third round. And then Saturday afternoon, right after Billy Schwein in the locker room at 12 o'clock will be day 3 of the NFL draft, all right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. As always, you guys can join the conversation at 609-403-0973 and your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Let's get the Sixers stuff out of the way. As if the loss last night wasn't enough. If it wasn't enough of a gut punch, if it wasn't enough of a just slap in the face, the NBA decided, we're just going to make all you feel worse. Because the NBA confirmed today that there should have been not one, not two, but 3 different situations that could have benefited the Sixers and helped them win that game last night. First of all, they are saying that both Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart should have been called for fouls on Tyrese Maxey. So you got that. The NBA also said there should have been a 3-second defensive violation on OG Anunoby. Also, Nick Nurse should have been given a timeout. And I think Joel Embiid said it best after the game as he stared at the ground talking to the media.
I mean, everybody on the floor was trying to call a timeout, myself including Nico, coach on the sideline, but they didn't give it to us. But, forget about the timeout. There's a bunch of fouls. Like I said, that's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable, Joel says, and he's 100% correct. It's unacceptable that game ended the way it did. Now, if the Sixers would have done a better job in the minutes leading up to that moment, sure, they could have won the game. In fact, I even made the argument earlier today, and I know Mike Gill disagreed with me on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. I felt like the moment Nick Nurse made that challenge, that second challenge, not the first, the second challenge that he got wrong, yes, it functioned as a timeout, but it felt like everything went downhill from there. Once that one situation didn't go the Sixers' way, it felt like everything else in the game never went their way ever again. And we are at a point now in the NBA where, because there are no consequences for these referees being among the worst people at their jobs, I never understand why it's okay for someone to have a job if they don't do it correctly. You either have to find somebody else to do the job, or there has to be repercussions for making mistakes. But because there's no repercussions for making mistakes, and because you can't just kick the refs out of the series, which you might be able to, honestly. I don't see why the NBA couldn't use relegation as a way to handle referees. Tell referees that, hey, you're not good enough for the playoffs. We'll just call somebody else in to run these games. The Sixers are down 2-0. And while there were other situations and reasons why they lost the game, for example, Hartenstein and Josh Hart are just out hustling you. Those guys are hitting the glass. They're hitting the offensive rebounds harder than anybody else. And the Sixers just don't have guys who are matching that intensity when it comes to rebound. They just don't have it. So because they don't have it, the Sixers are in a position where they are unable to hold a lead and finish out a game. And because what happened yesterday happened, we're talking less about the actual game and we're talking more about the officials. And I will never understand why the NBA is okay with this. Why the NBA is okay with us talking more about the officials than the game. Because if you take the officials out of the conversation, the bigger reason why the Sixers lost the game is because the Knicks won the third quarter. The Knicks came out of halftime and looked like a team on a mission. And I think that the Knicks came out of halftime and said, we are not losing this game. We are going to put in the type of energy and intensity and fight necessary to come back in this game. And like I said, you got to give guys like Hartenstein a ton of credit, Josh Hart a ton of credit. And I'll even throw in there Mitchell Robinson for his 18 minutes, a ton of credit. Because those guys fought for rebounds. Hartenstein, Hart, and Brunson all each had at least 8 rebounds. Hart had 15, Brunson had 8, Hartenstein had 8, Robinson had 4. Those guys alone almost out-rebounded the Sixers by themselves. And the fact that Joel Embiid is 7'2" and 280 pounds, and he just can't throw his body in the way sometimes, and how Kelly Oubre just does not look like he is built for this moment. And maybe it is as simple as the Sixers coming back home, but I got to tell you guys, last night was so disheartening. It was so frustrating for the Sixers to look around and get that level of production from Tyrese Maxey, who wasn't feeling well, from Joel Embiid playing on one leg, and the rest of the team couldn't muster anything more. Batum gave you 2 threes, but not much else. Kyle Lowry gave you 2 threes and 6 rebounds, not much else. Tobias Harris, self-explanatory. Kelly Oubre, just not built for the postseason. It's obvious that there's something off with him in the postseason. Now, why he didn't run somebody else out there, maybe a little campaign, KJ Martin, I don't know. Why Nick Nurse is only going 8 down the bench. But, man, last night was a massive just slap in the face with that game. 609-403-0973 is the text board. We'll get into the big Eagles news. Not big, but it's important in just a moment. Andy McNamara, NFL podcaster and analyst, will join us coming up in about 10 minutes from now. I will get to Isaiah Rodgers and why that news is important, but I do want to get to you guys first at 609-403-0973 in your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. See how Jerry with a G from Brigantine chimes in and says, I'm not saying we need a whole-scale change. However, we waited to get the situation solved with our coach. And here we are, the few seconds left of the game. One more possession, one more score, and would have been over. They would have called them the timeout. Maxey receives the ball like a football handoff and then fell on the floor. It was something that you see on the playground with 12-year-olds. I don't know what to say. I'm just curious about that call where the coach was and why there was no play. Well, a couple things, Jerry. Number one, Nick Nurse was trying to call a timeout. They wouldn't give it to him. The NBA's 2-minute review says that Nick Nurse should have been given the timeout call. So Nurse and Batum and everyone was signaling timeout, timeout, timeout. And the officials, I don't have a good answer for you guys. I just don't understand how you can be in that situation, in that environment, and just not do your job and say, it looks and sounds like they're calling for a timeout. How do you have 3 officials on the floor and nobody notices that? So they weren't trying to call a timeout. Now, your question about the inbounds play, okay? The long short of it, what Jerry was trying to say was the inbounds play. That's on the players. That's not on the coach. The players got to know better how to execute an inbounds play. You practice that at every level of basketball. So if you want to blame Max, you want to blame the players for not being able to inbound the ball properly, not swarming to help him when he got trapped on the inbound, you can certainly have that conversation. But Jerry, you can't overlook the fact that no matter what you say about that play, the refs failed to do their job on that play as well. Dan and EHT chimes in at 609-403-0973, says, I'm sick and tired of Embiid's fragile body and feeling sorry for his injuries. Sixers need to blow it up. The process was a mistake. Embiid is the last piece. Joe must go. Well, Dan and EHT, I'm glad you texted this in because I think you're the same person who messaged me on Twitter X about this, okay, at Josh Hennig. Just saying blow it up and restart in the process and all that there is so much layer and nuance. I would need 2 hours just to deal with that because number one, trading Joel Embiid and blowing up this team, it's not that simple for the simple fact that if you get something in return for Joel, is it even going to be worth the trade? Look at the past of NBA trades. When Shaq got traded from the Lakers to Miami, when Chris Paul got traded from the Clippers to the Houston Rockets, when Anthony Davis went from the Pelicans to the Lakers, or the massive trade that put Dwight Howard in with the Lakers and Andrew Bynum with the Sixers and Andre Iguodala with the Denver Nuggets. These trades don't always work out the way you hope they will. So it sounds good in theory to blow it up and trade Joel and start from scratch. But first of all, you might not even get the return on the trade you want. And second of all, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to actually start from scratch because if Tyrese Maxey is half the player we think he is, then he will have a great year next year. And will you lose enough games with Tyrese Maxey playing that way? You can't tell Tyrese Maxey to sit out the year just so you can lose enough games to get a good draft pick. So it sounds great in theory. And the process is a conversation for another show on another day. It's not as simple as saying it was a mistake. It's just not that simple. All right, we got more text to get to a little bit later this hour. George from Summers Point, Steve from Ventnor. I'll get to you guys coming up on the other side. But first, Andy McNamara will talk some NFL draft with us here on 97.3 ESPN FM and a 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Wake up weekday mornings with Unsportsmanlike with Evan Cohen, Chris Canty, and Michelle Small.
That genuinely is a series that I feel like could go either way because there are so many components within the series that there's a big fluctuation of how it's going to go night to night. So that series, I think, is still alive even now as we sit here for Philly.
Unsportsmanlike with Evan Cohen, Chris Canty, and Michelle Smallman on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Do you have a job? Do you have $199? Do you want a brand new Nissan?
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Stuck in a loan or a lease? AJ the Trademan can get you released, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Then drive home in your new Nissan Sentra S for only $199 per month lease with zero security deposit and only $29.90 due. That's a brand new 24 Nissan Sentra S that gets up to 39 miles per gallon for only $199 per month. And don't forget the Matt Blatt Nissan Peace of Mind 4-day love it or leave it return policy. Only at MattBlattNissan.com. On approved Tier 1 credit through NEMAC. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle plus tax tag and $589 doc fee. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. VIN RY263341. Lease selling price $22,495. Offer ends 5/5/2024. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike. Egg Harbor Township.
With Spring Black Friday savings at the Home Depot, you can give your lawn or garden beds a pop of color and protection. Right now, get a special buy on Scott's Earth Grow Mulch, 5 bags for just $10. Help your soil retain moisture longer with color that lasts up to 12 months. Shop Spring Black Friday savings for a special buy on Scott's Earth Grow Mulch, 5 bags for just $10 at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Billy, your gas light's on. We need to stop and fill up.
No way, Jen. Gas around here is too expensive. We can make it a little further.
Billy, listen to your big sister. You don't need to drive all over searching for the lowest gas prices. Do what I do and use Upside.
Upside?
Do you live under a rock, Billy? Upside is the hottest cashback app out there. It's free to download, and you get real cash back for every gallon of gas you buy. I use it all the time, and I've already made around $200.
You can make that kind of cash back just for buying the gas you have to buy anyway?
Yes, I'm looking at the Upside app now, and there's a gas station at the next exit offering 25 cents per gallon cash back.
Okay, I'm stopping to download Upside and fill up my tank. Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code MATCH to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code MATCH for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code MATCH for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Good news, New Jersey. More residents are getting quality, affordable health coverage through Get Covered New Jersey. Established by Governor Murphy, Get Covered New Jersey offers increased plan choices and more savings than ever. If you recently had a life event such as marriage, pregnancy, or insurance loss, you may qualify to enroll now. 9 in 10 enrolling get financial help for plans that include preventive care, prescriptions, and more. And if you meet certain income levels, you may qualify for low to no-cost coverage. Find your plan at getcovered.nj.gov.
Oh, honey, it's our favorite leaf filter trusted pro, Matt. Matt, come in.
Hi, Mrs. Sparks. You wanted me to stop by? Is everything okay with your leaf filter gutter protection system?
Okay. Of course, silly. We wanted you to stop by for dinner as our way of thanking you.
Yes, to thank you for that free gutter inspection, the free estimate, and what was the other thing?
That lifetime guarantee.
Well, Mr. and Mrs. Sparks, those are just Leaf Filter's policies. Everyone who calls Leaf Filter gets a trusted pro to come out for a free gutter inspection and estimate. And every Leaf Filter installation comes with a lifetime guarantee.
So it's not just us?
No, sir. We don't want anyone to worry about clogged gutters ever again.
You mean everyone gets this level of service?
Everyone. They just need to visit leaffilter.com/sound to schedule their free inspection.
Okay, but you must be starving. You work so hard.
Ready to love your gutter protection as much as we do? Visit leaffilter.com/sound and get up to 30% off today.
See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
With GMF financing to qualify buyers excludes Corvette, excludes prior sales.
It's back.
Bennett Chevrolet selling new Chevys at $500 below GM supplier employee pricing. You heard right. At Bennett Chevrolet, we're not only selling new Chevys at GM employee supplier pricing. No. Bennett selling new Chevys at $500 below GM supplier employee prices. Plus, you keep all the rebates. Yes, you keep all rebates and get a new vehicle at $500 below GM supplier employee pricing. And Bennett's got available 1.9% financing, saving you even more. Looking for used? For a limited time, you'll get a minimum $10,000 for any old rusted, busted junker you can get here. That's at least 10 grand towards any pre-owned in stock. Imagine how much you'll get for a good trade. And you'll absolutely love our non-commissioned sales team because they're paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. It's Bennett Chevy's best offer ever. New Chevys at $500 below the GM supplier employee price. Plus, you keep all the rebates. Together, let's drive at Bennett Chevrolet, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Valvoline Advanced can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life oil filter for only $35.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
It's universal.
Can I get a root canal instead?
People strongly dislike the process of moving.
Please, anything but moving.
Because let's face it, it's hard. But if you've got to do it, make it as painless as possible.
Moving is a breeze with Clark's Moving and Storage. Use Clark's Moving and Storage for your next local or long-distance move. Visit Clark's Moving and Storage online at clarksmoving.net.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
We have a ton of opportunity in front of us, but I think the number one, the most important thing is the mentality that the people have in the building. And so you want to go get people that have a sense of culture about themselves, have a mentality about themselves. And I think that's exactly what we're doing.
Is that a hint from Jalen Hurts about what the Eagles will do in this year's NFL draft? Andy McNamara joins us, host of the Sick Podcast. Of course, he joins us throughout the football season here on 97.3 ESPN. Andy, I believe this is now our 5th or 6th year talking about the NFL draft. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, buddy. I was just trying to think today, how many years? It's great to always to talk draft with you. I am in my draft day movie t-shirt garb.
Nice.
For those who can see on the stream, I got it 10 years ago is the anniversary, the 10th anniversary of the movie Draft Day. Also have my Kevin Costner, Sonny Weaver Jr. Draft Day coaster. They're his finest role in a sports film, if I do say so.
I disagree with that totally. It's for the love of the game.
No, Sonny Weaver Jr. getting those picks back and David Putney. Best move ever.
No, for the love of the game, release the mechanism when he goes for the perfect game and he realizes he can't focus anymore at the end of the game. He has to reach extra deep in that final 9th inning. The drama built up the whole season to that game. Come on, man.
Vontae Mack, no matter what. The question is, whose note do Eagles fans, do all the fans have written down as that no matter what player, Josh? Who's the no matter what you have written down that if you're a fan, you want your team to take? That's why I love the draft. There's always so much drama.
Well, that's part of the question because Jalen Hurts talked about in that audio cut you just heard about how he is getting guys that match the mentality of people in the building. So is that a clue at all of who the Eagles might be targeting? Is there somebody in this draft, Andy, that screams to you, Philadelphia Eagle?
Boy, I don't know if I fully recovered for how good a draft Roseman had last year. Like, I know everything didn't fully pan out because we talked about like first year. I think still down the road, we're going to be looking back at that one and saying, oh my gosh, because that was still such a great day for the Eagles. So when it comes to what fits the mindset, I think that's all well and good to say. Howie Roseman is so smart. He's going to take truly, I think, that highest rated player on his board. I think they're in a position to do that. Now, could you add some depth at offensive line? Sure, perhaps. You know, they love building along the trenches, right? A D lineman, O lineman. Do you add another skill spot? This is a case where the window to win is open. And if you're Philly, you can take advantage of those rookie contracts. So I think it's going to be looking at, okay, did a corner drop? We know they like corners as well. Did a corner drop that you're maybe not sure of? This is why I'm interested in where they're picking, because depending, Josh, are you getting an early run on receivers, on linemen? Is there a run at all? That's what's so intricate here. Where's the value? And I think that's where the Eagles look to go.
You mentioned the receivers. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
you know, one of the questions out there is about Quinion Mitchell, the cornerback from Toledo, because so apparently there's reporting out there that Nick Sirianni knows somebody on the Toledo staff. Apparently they're friends. So there's a coaching connection from the Eagles in Toledo. And the Adam Schefter report yesterday that came out was that the Eagles have been wanting to trade up, which is like the similar saying that water is wet. Of course, Howie Roseman wants to trade up. Like, that's duh.
Yeah.
The question is, if the Eagles walk out of the first round, Andy, with Mitchell from Toledo, is that another big win for the Eagles, or should they go in a different direction with the first round?
I could see Mitchell being the pick, maybe if in a trade up, maybe a Terry and Arnold as well from Alabama. You know, like that type of player could work. Could they go in a different, like, the thing I'd expect them to take least would be wide receiver. But the situation says that, okay, it's not a strong year for running back, right? It's a year where you can get value at receiver or O-line later if you choose. So that's why that's sort of secondary. Is it a safety? You know, that secondary kind of jumps out, and that could be a need for this Eagles defense, which is still revamping itself, right? It still needs a little juice on it. So if you trade up, those are two names certainly to look for. And then even if you stay put, right? Like if you don't trade up, it's so deep. I'm just trying to put the pieces together, Josh, of like where's that first run and who does it push down? I'm hoping it's quarterback, because this is a great year to not need a quarterback, because there's going to be so much talent pushed down. Like if you're looking at the chart, you can get to 5. Like someone's trading up to that 4 or 5 4 spot for sure, maybe 3. You're going to have the best non-quarterback taken in this draft at probably the 5th spot. That's outrageous. So the Eagles are going to be able to find somebody of value. I'm thinking it's either O-line or secondary and probably corner.
The problem for the Eagles with the O-line is I think the guys who make the most sense for them are going to be drafted way before they get there, because O-line is going to be such a high demand. I don't know if the Eagles, I mean, with the Eagles trade up for the offensive lineman, like I can see them doing it for a corner. We saw them do it for Devonta Smith. We saw them do it for Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. We saw them trade up for those kind of guys, but are the O-linemen in this draft trade upable for, if that's a word?
Unless it's Joe Alt. I don't think in the first round, let's say.
We're going to disagree again. I think Joe Alt's overrated.
Oh, really?
I think I have a problem with his bend. I heard, so I was listening to Ross Tucker talk about this on his podcast.
Okay.
And he plays offensive line.
Yeah.
And he made a comment that made me like stop in my tracks. He said, the problem with extra tall guys is that they don't have the lower body flexibility. They can get whipped in certain situations. And he talked about how one of the reasons why guys like Jordan Mailata and Jason Peters are so good is because they're freak athletes. Lane Johnson, freak athletes. And if you're just big and powerful, it's not good enough in the NFL because you can't just grab everybody. So Alt worries me a little bit.
Interesting. That's the first negative thing I think I've heard about Joe Alt. But your point makes sense, and we've seen it. I'm trying to think, who's the giant lineman that the Jets took? That's a perfect example of just that. You know who I'm talking about.
Oh, the guy who's been injured like 5 times.
Yes, and he's like 7 feet tall. Like he's a monster of a man.
I'm going to look it up while you make your
point.
point.
He's that's a perfect point to that, because you can be so big, you got the wingspan, but if your feet aren't quick enough and you can't get, like you said, that bend, and we have these, like let's look at Myles Garrett, like super athletic freak edge rushers who can get around you. You're not quick enough, then that doesn't work. I will counter with, I think an example. Becton, yes. Yeah. Huge guy. On paper, you're like, oh my gosh, yes. But to your point,
6'8", 363.
not a good mover, right? You got to have the quick feet. You got to have those. You got to have those quick stutter steps. And an example on the other side that it has worked, I think, is DeJuan Jones, 5th round pick that the Browns got out of Ohio State last year. This guy, basketball player. The reason he dropped in part was because people say, "Oh, does he love the game?" Well, it sure looked like it before he got hurt a couple games before the end of the year. This guy stepped in as a rookie, and Josh at right tackle, but he made TJ Watt look like a child. He couldn't get around him, and he was moving fast enough. So I think, to your point, it does really depend on the athleticism, but certainly something to watch with all the hype around Alt.
Yeah, like for example, I like Treader from Alabama. I like Fulaga. I love Fulaga.
What about Tyler Guyton? Guyton from Oklahoma. That's somebody who maybe could fall into the 20 mark, add some depth, not someone you have to start right away type of thing.
Guyton's interesting because let me ask you, do you think he can play guard?
I think you could shove him in if you need to. I think you can move him in, sure.
Because I think if you draft a guy in the first round, you're not drafting him to play tackle. You're drafting him to compete for right guard and eventually play tackle. Because remember, Lane Johnson is under contract for another 3-4 years. So
yeah,
what you're doing is you're telling a guy, because remember, back in the day, over a decade ago, Lane Johnson was drafted to be Jason Peters' successor. You don't talk about that. Well, guess what? Lane Johnson became so great at right tackle, they never moved him. Right.
Yeah.
And remember, they drafted Andre Dillard to be the replacement for Jason Peters. But Jordan Mailata developed so well, he is now making big money, play left tackle. So sometimes you got to draft the guy with the understanding that he might not be the heir apparent. Remember, Landon Dickerson played center at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's a Pro Bowl left guard. They had to draft Cam Jurgens to be the new center. But what did Jurgens do last year? He played right guard. So for a team like the Eagles, if you're drafting a guy like Guyton, you got to ask the question, do we feel comfortable? It's like the old Jamie Foxx joke, the skit. Jamie, you make me feel comfortable. Are you comfortable with Guyton playing right guard?
And I think to that point, if you want somebody who maybe can be groomed or pop in, do you want to spend it, even if he might be an heir apparent? Do you want to spend that first round capital on a guard? Or maybe you can swing back in the 2nd or 3rd round and find quality guards. You can find quality guards 2nd, 3rd round. Definitely.
Especially with the Eagles history. Remember, Isaac Seumalo was a 3rd round pick. Driscoll was 4th or 5th round. Mailata was 7th round. Jason Kelsey was a 6th round pick. The Eagles have a long history of not drafting the guard in the 1st round.
I think we just talked me thinking of an offensive tackle out of the 1st round as an option. I'm off it. I'm off it now. Just because of what you were saying. The history and thinking back, like if you don't need someone right now. Now, again, if weird things happen in the first, if something weird and some weird run happens and offensive lineman X is their highest rated guy by a long shot for whatever reason, and they're like, wow, we can't move out. Either they might trade down or just take the guy,
like for example,
other than that,
a guy that I would love to see your team, the Cleveland Browns, pick. By the way, Andy McNamara joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Andy MC81 on the Twitter X platform, the Sick Podcast. Like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. A guy who I think would be great for the Eagles or the Browns, Mason McCormick of South Dakota State. He's a day 2 pick guy, and he's one of those guys. He didn't go to the big school, right? He went to South Dakota State, but he is just an athletic freakazoid at the guard position.
Well, you know what? It might make some sense because the Browns' offensive line, if you look at it on paper, you're like, they're loaded. And they are and they aren't, because you have Jedrick Wills at left tackle, who's been average. He's been he's been okay. He's been there's talk that they won't they picked up the 5th-year option. There's talk that they might let him walk. Very, very well could. Jack Conklin on the right side. We remember Jack Conklin being real good. Jack Conklin hasn't played a full season in 3 years, and they still got him on the books. Can he stay healthy? He got injured in preseason last year. You got DeJuan Jones. Joel Bitonio has been a stud, but he's going on to year like 10. And you got Wyatt Teller. So maybe it is a case where you do take a highly ranked offensive lineman. Now, I think we can make the same argument. Andrew Berry, Browns GM, can look and say, hey, I found DeJuan Jones, who's going to be a future starting left or right tackle for us in the 5th round.
That's
Maybe I can wait a little bit because the Browns have the 2nd round pick, a 3rd round pick, and then no 4th, then go 5, 6, and 2 7s.
And by the way, where did Andrew Berry get his start before Cleveland?
Philly, of course. Yeah, he's learned from the best, learned from Rose. Yeah, very good relationship. They had the co-practice in a preseason a couple years ago.
They did. And Andrew Berry and Howie Rose, they were going to make out almost on the sideline. It was kind of creepy, actually.
He loves the Eagles. And you know what? Hey, if Andrew Berry can get some of the rub from Howie Roseman, I'm fine with that, man. I'm fine with that.
You mentioned the wide receivers. I was asked earlier about this. I want to ask you a similar question. How do you differentiate between Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze? Because for me, I made the analogy, they're like sports cars. It's not that a Lamborghini is better than a Maserati and a Maserati is better than an Aston Martin.
Yeah.
But they all have aspects to them that might fit your needs better, or they might fit your offense better, or they might just be a personal preference. Like, maybe you just like the way the one rides or sounds versus the other. Like, I don't think any of those three is necessarily like better than the other, but how do you look at them?
I'd agree to a point because you can get like 10 deep in this wide receiver class, and how much at the end of the day, depending on landing spot, how big of a gap is there going to be? It is loaded.
Right.
To me, Marvin Harrison Jr. still stands above Malik Neighbors. He just does.
Okay.
I think he is complete. He's size, speed, natural, hands. Pressure's not going to be anything for him. His dad's a Hall of Famer. Guys had to grow up with that his whole life. Now, again, am I going to be mad if a team goes the other way and says, "Oh, Malik Neighbors"? No, because he's fantastic too. I'll tell you this though, Odunze to me is my number 4. The guy who's my number 3 is Adonai Mitchell out of Texas, man. That is my every year, Josh, I have my draft day crush. Remember my draft day crush, combine crush? It's Adonai Mitchell. My God, like this guy. Let me hit you with some factoids here. 6'2 and a quarter, 205, 39.5 vertical, 4.35 second 40. The strides, the catching strides, the adjustments he's able to make mid-stride and keep that flow. I don't think we're talking about that guy enough. And I like Odunze, don't get me wrong, but I feel when you combine size, speed, bulk at 205 too, like we're not talking about a 160 guy, and you're able to put those intangibles with that, boy, whoever gets him, and he'll probably go in the 20s to a Buffalo, a Cincinnati, I'm going to be very jealous of, because I think again, always depends on landing spot. You look back a couple years, Adonai Mitchell, we're going to be saying, oh boy, he's right up at the top.
See, the receiver that's not the top 3 that I love is Keon Mitchell of Florida State. Because he reminds you a little bit of another former Florida State receiver, Anquan Bolden. He's got that size at 6'3", 212, right? He's got the 50-50 catchability. He comes from a meh offense in college, right?
So didn't put up the bigger numbers,
right. He's one of those guys. I was having a conversation with Mike Gill earlier today, and about how, remember Calvin Johnson went to Georgia Tech, and they ran the triple option back then. So of course he never got big numbers in college. He's a wide receiver, but the Lions drafted him based on pure potential. And I have to wonder with some of these guys, whether it's Keon Coleman of Florida State, whether it's a Roman Wilson of Michigan, like, are some of these guys going to get to the NFL and like land with like a Sean McVay, for example, or with one of these coaches that is just like so good with offensive players that guy just goes off totally.
Well, another guy that can land in there is, I think, Xavier Leggett as well. I think he's one of those guys who you took Roman Wilson, Troy Franklin, Leggett. They could all go second round. Some could pop up into the late first. And that's, I think, the value that some of these teams are going to get on second round receivers, where in the past they would have been first rounders, is just going to be exceptional. A guy too, I like Ricky Pearsall out of Florida for the Florida Gators, 6'1", 189, pretty smooth. I kind of see him as a bit of a poor man's Lad McConkey. McConkey's getting a bunch of hype. I think he'll probably go in the first. Pre-combine, he was more of a second round grade. I think that wherever Ricky Pearsall goes, that's somebody, might not blow the roof off of things with fantasy numbers or anything like that, but as a solid guy in the slot that you can pop outside a little bit too, I think that's somebody to watch. It's like, hey, if your team ends up with him, don't be too upset.
Yeah, Pearsall reminds me of like back in the day when Peyton Manning played for the Colts. He was a perfect Colts pick. Like he would have been a guy who would fit that offense perfectly, you know?
Yeah.
The way he plays is like an amalgamation of Brandon Stokely and Reggie Wayne. Like they were like put in the one player.
Okay.
Because, you know, like I love the way he runs routes. I love the way he attacks the ball. You know, he's one of those guys that looks like if he ends up with a good quarterback, watch out.
Yeah. And he's one of those, he's one of those,
Like,
he's going to be reliable.
The Houston Texans. Imagine him and CJ Stroud together.
That team is so loaded and the Browns built it. I'm so upset because I love how they built it. Josh, I killed me because I love everything I love about the Houston Texans. I love the quarterback. I love the build. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the Browns built that team. And they continue to. They still have a first round pick. I think they flipped that to, maybe it was Minnesota. But
they flipped it 5 times. Yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah, like that Houston team, like watch out, man. Like this is, like it's not like, oh, the window's open a couple years. Like and I don't see any sign of CJ Stroud regressing like you see typical year 2 quarterbacks. Like, this guy's near perfection. So it's like watch out. Top of the AFC, we could be seeing the Houston Texans.
Look, the only thing bad in Houston right now is those new uniforms. Those helmets are ugly.
I saw those just before I came on. You know what? I had to check. I was like, I thought, is that like, you know, some fan art? So like a fan design. I was like, oh, like someone did a lot of work on that, but it's not very, I'm like, ooh, that's they're kind of, I don't know. I just don't like them.
I hate them.
Yeah.
They
right.
look
They're
so
like,
bad.
Yeah, they're not great. Now, what about the Browns who introduced their white face mask? That was a buzz.
I still don't understand what the value is.
I don't, there's no value.
Because
like just don't put out a press conference. Why?
Like, Andy, let me ask you a question. Isn't the whole point of coming up with like new designs and new uniforms so you can sell more stuff?
Yes.
You're not selling helmets.
Correct.
So why are you remaking the helmets?
And even if you wanted to sell like the mini helmets, like I got the mini helmet up there, you're not selling more mini helmets because it's just a face mask.
No, it's exactly.
You're not putting like, I don't know.
It's so dumb.
I know. There's it's gonna be a very interesting draft. I want to ask you, how many quarterbacks go in the first round?
5.
Do you think Penix gets there?
See, here's the problem with the quarterbacks before I let you go. And this is my perspective, and you can respond quickly because I got to hit the break soon. We all know Caleb Williams is going number 1.
Yep.
Daniels, May, McCarthy, they're all going in the first round. So we know that you're getting at least 4.
Right.
Then it comes down to who's the team that's going to want the 5th year for Nix, Penix, and Rattler. Because remember, Nix is the guy who like had the great years after the bad years. Penix is the guy who it's like if he stays healthy, you never know. And then Rattler was like the one-time prodigy that had to be the prodigal son, right? So, and don't forget, this draft is weird because you got guys like Keaton Slovis and Joe Milton and Devin Leary and Sam Hartman and Jordan Travis. This is a weird draft once you get past the top 2 guys. So to me, it's like, who's the team? Is it the Vikings? Is it the Raiders? Is it
Broncos?
The Broncos.
You're not going with Zach Wilson.
For Zach Wilson, right?
Oh, God. Yeah, good luck, Sean Payton. Yeah, you hate Russell Wilson? Yeah, enjoy that guy. Hide your moms. Good Lord.
Hide your moms. Hide your husbands. My goodness. I listen, I hate speaking ill of people who I don't know personally. I don't know Zach Wilson's mom at all.
No.
But like, just the way she acts, she's the woman who walks in the room and steals somebody's husband. She just looks like that kind of person. I hate saying that, but she does.
You got a whole new town, baby. Mile high. I'll tell you real quick. That Kean Slovis, boy, 7th round pick. Give me that guy. I love this guy, man. Felt like because he missed the last 8 games, played in 3 schools, and he's not mobile, but he was the fastest QB who ran at the combine, man. And like that footwork was smooth. Yeah, like no one ran 4.5, but like he never ran. Like his yardage in college was like -2, but he's like mobile enough and he's athletic. And boy, the footwork looked phenomenal on the placement. I'm like, boy, like give me a flyer on Keaton Slovis, a 6th, 7th round pick. I'll take him.
Andy, we got going with the podcast.
Well, we're gonna have a live. Well, not live. Actually, I taped it earlier. So we have a new.
You are looking live.
Live. You have a new show coming out tonight. Recorded earlier on, talking about different draft prospects on the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. We go up and down, talk Browns, of course, but really sort of go through those later picks because the Browns don't have a 1st round pick. So we're talking about 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So if you're a draft junkie and you want to get in on those kind of lesser known guys and maybe ones who could pop a little bit, make sure you're listening to the show at Sick Pod Browns on Twitter and on YouTube, Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara.
Andy, appreciate you jumping on, my friend. Keep up the great work, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely, buddy. Enjoy the draft.
Andy McNamara here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Steven Ventnor, George Summers Point, Dan EHC, and more of your texts on the other side. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN.
Hi, this is Billy Schwein from the Locker Room.
I'm Dave Klemick, owner of Klemick Performance Method.
Join us this Saturday as we broadcast live from the Bayfest in Summers Point from 10 a.m. to 12 noon.
Stop by and get your official vertical leap tested and compared to the national averages, just like the NFL Combine.
John Coyle from All Campus will be joining us with a great selection of pro and college hats for purchase.
Come find us on Bay Avenue, Ketty Corner of the Summers Point Beach.
It's the Locker Room with Billy Schwein, live from the Bayfest, Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.
With GMF financing to qualify buyers, excludes Corvette, excludes prior sales.
It's back! Bennett Chevrolet selling new Chevys at $500 below GM supplier employee pricing. You heard right. At Bennett Chevrolet, we're not only selling new Chevys at GM employee supplier pricing. No! Bennett selling new Chevys at $500 below GM supplier employee prices. Plus, you keep all the rebates. Yes, you keep all rebates and get a new vehicle at $500 below GM supplier employee pricing. And Bennett's got available 1.9% financing, saving you even more. Looking for used? For a limited time, you'll get a minimum $10,000 for any old rusted, busted junker you can get here. That's at least 10 grand towards any pre-owned in stock. Imagine how much you'll get for a good trade. And you'll absolutely love our non-commissioned sales team because they're paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. It's Bennett Chevy's best offer ever. New Chevys at $500 below the GM supplier employee price. Plus, you keep all the rebates. Together, let's drive at Bennett Chevrolet, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
It's time to roll out the red carpet for, well, new carpet. There's no better time than right now at the Home Depot, where the more you buy, the more you save. Save up to 15% on select special order carpet styles you love from brands you trust. And installation is included on qualifying purchases. Start your carpet project today at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Offer valid April 11th through April 28th, 2024. Receive up to 15% off select special order carpet purchases. Minimum purchase required. Exclusions apply. For licenses, see homedepot.com/license numbers.
Gonna feel a puff of air.
Jong's Optometry has set their sights on staffing up.
Try the next line. Hey, Kim, can you tell our 2 o'clock we're running 15 behind? Sorry, we're a bit backed up today.
He needs an optometric technician to keep an eye on it all.
Where are the dilation drops?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Mike Gill here. Upgrade your outdoor look for summer with my friends at Progressive Fence and Railing. Whether it's adorable fence, glass, or cable railing, new shed, stylish deck, beautiful awning, or serene gazebo, check out Progressive's Spring Special. 20% off materials and a 4-year warranty extension, plus finance options that fit your budget. Privacy protection perfection. Grab your free estimate today. Visit ProgressiveFenceandRail.com.
ProgressiveFenceandRail.com. Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Valvoline Advanced can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life Oil Filter for only $35.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Are you or a loved one living with a disability in the Garden State? If so, NJ Able is here to help. This special tax advantage savings account lets those with disabilities save for qualified expenses without impacting SSI and Medicaid eligibility. NJ Able makes it simple to both save money and grow your savings by investing without having to give up important benefits you rely on. NJ Able can also be used to help with housing, education, transportation, food, and so much more. To learn more, visit us at nj.savewithable.com. A message from the New Jersey Department of Human Services.
Every business faces challenges, but complicated, expensive, and uncertain shipping shouldn't be one of them.
With USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service, you can avoid all the noise.
No more unexpected surcharges, hidden fees, or complex rate structures.
It's just easy, cost-effective, and dependable shipping. Tune your business's frequency to success and turn shipping to your advantage. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
TLC Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling have been proudly serving South Jersey for over 20 years. Owner Matt Calloway was born and raised in Cape May County and has over 25 years of experience in the heating and cooling industry, as well as fireplaces, plumbing, and bathroom renovations. You can always count on a licensed and insured local contractor like TLC Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling to be there promptly and to fix your problem right the first time. If your home needs a little TLC, get TLC Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling today. Online at tlcphc.com.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds, which could be life-changing. I mean, you could put that money towards that zero-turn lawnmower you've always wanted. And after using its edge-shaping technology to meticulously sculpt the face of the Mona Lisa into your grass, you'll become the undisputed king of Saturday morning lawn care, leaving your neighbor and sworn enemy Gary to question his place in the delicate neighborhood ecosystem. And it's all because you could save money switching at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, not available in all states.
Kick off the Pro Football Draft with me, Mike Gill, at Top Golf Swing Suite in Ocean Casino Resort, Thursday, April 25th. I will be live on the Sports Mat from Top Golf Swing Suite starting at 2 p.m., discussing everything you need to know about this year's draft. During happy hour, gather your squad and come sit at the bar and enjoy a night full of football, drinks, and giveaways. The Sports Bash live at Top Golf Swing Suite in Ocean Casino Resort, Thursday, April 25th. Must be 21 or older, wager or consume alcohol. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
All right, let's get your text before we wrap up the hour. Don't forget Timberwolves and Suns game 2 tonight here on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers back in action game 2 on Thursday night, as well as the NFL draft that night. George Summers Point chimes says, hey, Josh, it is a really bad sign the Knicks won both those games with Jalen Brunson shooting as poorly as he did. He led the Knicks in the regular season. If he starts to play as in the regular season, it'll be difficult for the Sixers to win the rest of the series. It seems like you said, the Knicks just won it more than the Sixers. That's from George and Summers Point. Yeah, and there's really no other explanation for it, right? There's really no other hey, it literally is Hartenstein and Josh Hart want to win more than some of the Sixers players. And I'm not trying to throw shade at Tobias Harris and Kelly Oubre, but it really does feel like those guys are just out there to collect the paycheck and get home as soon as possible. Text chime in says Joel Embiid should start recruiting. Well, they're going to have a lot of salary cap space this offseason, so we're going to find out how good of a recruiter Embiid really is. Danny H. said, are you kidding me, Josh? You're telling me you have any faith in Joel Embiid? Come on, this is comical. Danny HT, you just don't like my answer. Okay? It's as simple as that, buddy. You don't like the fact that I am not 100% on board with blowing up the Sixers team and starting from scratch. It's nothing to do with me believing in Embiid or having faith in Embiid. And by the way, I do have faith in Embiid because he's giving you more out there on one leg than Oubre or Harris or Paul Reed or basically half this team is giving you. So I do have faith in Embiid, and I have more faith in him than whatever 4 players and draft picks you get in return that may or may not work out. Again, it's not as simple as to say, just blow it all up. Okay. So what happened with RG3's career when he said that. Steven Ventnor chimes in a couple things. He says, with the Eagles, I think they can get one of the top corners. My favorite DB is Mitchell from Toledo. His play style and attitude would fit Vic Fangio's defense like a glove. Think they would have to jump over the Jags and Colts to get him, though. Yeah, that's the problem, Steve Ventnor, is that for the Eagles, are they willing to put in all that draft capital for a guy? And then maybe he doesn't even start week 1 of the season if you play Bradbury and Slay out there again. I personally like Mitchell as well. I thought that this was a very good point brought by other people about Terry and Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry. They played a lot of zone at Alabama this past year. So if you have two corners who made their hay playing a lot of zone corner, are they really guys who you want out there for a team that plays man? I don't know. I don't have the right answer for that, but I just tend to think that I would take Mitchell over those guys personally. Stephen Benner's on a point. He says, I say don't mess with the Phillies rotation. Walker has some bad mojo from last year. They need to trade him to a team that needs starting pitching help. There's definitely a market for him. How about Walker to maybe the Dodgers? Maybe even we find a way to throw Castellanos into the deal. Listen, I'm with you, Stephen Ventnor. I'm not a fan of putting Walker in the rotation. Looks like he's supposed to start this Sunday for the Phillies. I don't believe they can turn ball out of the rotation. I say you stick with the guys you have until they can't run anymore. Pitchers get injured. Things happen. Guys get blisters and sore arms and dead arms and stuff. Just tell Walker to be a good soldier, go to the bullpen until he takes his turn. And if he doesn't like it, then trade him. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. I'll get you tomorrow. You're on 97.3 ESPN.
The 2024 NFL Draft.
So you ready for the draft? Let's get started.
From number 1 to Mr. Irrelevant.
The San Francisco 49ers select Brock Purdy, a quarterback from Iowa State.
The 2024 NFL Draft, live from the heart of downtown Detroit.
The Chicago Bears select.
It all starts with round 1, Thursday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
It's the 2024 NFL Draft on 97.3 ESPN.